Let's bring in Jerry Dias. He's the president of Unifor, which represents Air Canada workers. He's with us now from Toronto. Hi, Jerry. Good to see you as always. Thanks for making the time.
Always my pleasure.
And I apologize in advance if I have to cut you off when the ministers start, but I do want to get your perspective on this. I know you were looking for this type of agreement. Is the content of it what you wanted?
Yes, it is. This is a win-win for Air Canada. It's a win-win for the federal government. But I'll tell you, this protects a heck of a lot of jobs here. The deal provides a floor of 15,000 jobs, which are currently employed today. So Air Canada can't lay off anymore. But it also creates a lot of jobs based on their commitments of planes they were buying. So the C series, they're going to plow ahead with the 33 orders. They're going to proceed with the 40 orders of the Boeing 737 MAXs. That'll put a lot of workers, in the workplace in Quebec. It'll solidify a lot of jobs in Manitoba. So this is a win all over the place. Consumers are winning as a result of having a strong industry. You've got consumers are winning because Air Canada is going to give back the refunds. Taxpayers are winning because these are straight loans. It's not grants. And the federal government's going to take about $500 million worth of shares or 6% ownership. So all in all, I think the workers should be happy. And I think consumers, I think it's a win for everyone.
I know in advance, the last time we spoke on the program, when it sounded like things were getting very close to a deal, you were talking about the possibility of a loan at around 1% payable over 10 years. What did it end up being?
Well, it's anywhere between 1.2% to 1.9%. If Air Canada is looking for longer loans, it can go up to 6.5% and 8.5%. But my guess is they never get beyond the 1.9. So this is a much better situation than the original terms of LEAF. Under LEAF, frankly, companies could have got a better rate from the loan shark. So this is a real renegotiations from the 5% down to 1.2. And like I said, basically 1.9. So I don't see Air Canada getting into the real heavy interest rates. I see them settling much lower than, the original LEAF had guaranteed. So Air Canada is pleased, federal government is pleased, I'm pleased.
And I also wanted to touch on, and you brought some of them up, but the conditions attached to the agreement. For example, employment no lower than it was on April 1, 2021. I think you said that's about 15,000 people. Also, some restrictions on this. I'm just looking at Air Canada's release here. Certain expenditures, senior executive compensation, and then resumption of service to regional services. What more can you tell us about how that all factors in?
No, look, it's a deal that satisfies the wants of the nation as well. Air Canada is going to have to reopen 17 regional routes. You can't talk about build back better. We can't have a country spread apart to the extent we are without having a means of which to bring people together. So, clearly the federal government was hard on the restrictions, wanted the regional routes reopened, and I'm glad it's being done.
What about other airlines, in particular WestJet? Any sense of how close agreement on with other airlines could be, and what might be holding it back?
Well, I think the tough slugging was Air Canada. You had to get that one done first. So I think the template is now in place as it relates to the new rules under the LEAF program, the 1.2 to the 1.9%. I think the whole issue of refunding customers, regional routes. So I think the template is in place, and I think you'll see the rest of negotiations moving very quickly.
I don't want to take it for granted, and I know you can speak to this. So many sectors have been hit hard by this pandemic, but the airline industry is really up there, and we've seen evidence of that right around the world. Talk a bit, if you could, for our viewers about the ways in which our domestic, airlines in this country have been impacted, and Canadians who work for them.
Oh, well, I've got 65% of all of my members in the airline industry have been laid off. I think about our members who are air traffic controllers who have been laid off, air traffic controllers that have left the country. I think we're probably the only nation in the world that has lost air traffic controllers. We have pilots that are losing their certification. So we're in dire straits today because we can't have a strong recovery. We can't talk about what it's going to look like after the pandemic, and we can't move people. So pilot jobs are critical. Air traffic controllers are critical, and the entire industry is very important. So this is step one, as I see it. The world aviation, aerospace industry, airlines has been devastated. Most of the other nations around the world have made significant moves. Canada, I will argue, was a little late coming to the game, but better late than never.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that point, just because we have seen, in particular, neighboring jurisdictions actually, not even loan money under the former president in the United States hand out billions of dollars. But other jurisdictions, you're right, have kind of been able to reach some sort of agreement. What's your view? Is it that we're a bit late, or was the government kind of being productive in trying to get the best conditions possible for the agreement?
No, I think it was a bit of both. I think the feds were holding on to the best deal that they could carve. They knew that Air Canada was sitting on a pile of money at the time of the pandemic. They knew that WestJet was bought out by Onyx with deep, deep pockets. So the bottom line is they didn't want to come to a conclusion too quick in case the industry came back again asking for another bailout. So I think but this isn't even a bailout. That's wrong terminology. This is really about sector support. So, look, the feds were pushing for the best deal they could. Air Canada pushed for their best deal they could. I think there was a meeting of the minds. Both parties are happy. There's a path forward, and I think that's a huge win for Canada.
And just to clarify one point, because I know you've mentioned it, my colleague Hannah did, lots of people interested, lots of Canadians interested in that concept of the refunds. First of all, do you think the government predicating an agreement on the ability on airlines giving those refunds is what made things take a little bit longer?
No, I think it's rather complex. I mean, when the government is saying that they want Air Canada to open up some regional routes that were unprofitable, that's an issue for Air Canada. So the feds had to play a role. When you're talking about interest rates that are outrageous, Air Canada is saying to the feds, look, you're going to have to do a heck of a lot better than that. So there were a lot of complex issues. And look, I'm in negotiations every day, and anybody can rush into a poor deal. Air Canada wasn't in a rush to do that, nor was the federal government. So sometimes it takes a little while, and this is a perfect example of that. But there were a lot of issues, a lot of complex issues. And look, nothing gets done that quickly unless you're looking to make a mistake.
And just finally, on the refunds, is it money being provided through the federal government for those refunds? Like, is that part of the package, or is it the airline itself that's going to be paying those?
Well, the Air Canada will pay the refunds, but the federal government has given them the equivalent of about $1.4 billion at a 1.2% interest rate. So it's a part of the deal. Air Canada knew they weren't getting a nickel unless they made a commitment to repay the consumers, and I know Air Canada was absolutely prepared to do that.
Okay, Jerry, I'll leave it there. We're still waiting for the ministers, but I really appreciate you making the time for us tonight, as always. Thanks so much.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vassy Kapelos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.